Hello, I'm Adele McLay, and I'm back. For those of you who've been a part of my community for a long time, you might have noticed that I haven't been communicating with you at all for the last couple of months. You haven't been getting regular blogs and other information to support you to be more successful in business. You haven't been receiving any of my musings around life from time to time, and that's really unusual for me because I would normally email once or twice a week. And for those of you who are very new to my community, well, firstly, welcome. It's lovely to have you a part of my group and my community. And you will have noticed that nothing's been happening. And there's a reason for that. I have had an unusual year and fabulous in many respects and quite personally challenging in others. And I needed to take some time to process what had been happening, to make sense of it, to see how it fitted in my life and business. And I've got to the end of that journey, and I'd like to share that with you. I'm hoping that what I've been through may be helpful to you in your journey in business and perhaps life. Have you ever been in a situation where you've had an amazing time at, say, a conference, yet you've had your biggest learnings, your biggest aha moment after the event? Well, that happened to me. For those of you who've been on my list for a while, you may recall that I hosted the Business Networking Online Summit earlier this year in April. And it was amazing. It went out to thousands and thousands of people around the world because I interviewed 42 world-leading experts, writers, practitioners in business networking. And their goal was, like mine, to serve and to support people to be better networkers, to be more successful networkers for their business. And I think we achieved that given the feedback that we got. Well, quite soon after that, one of those experts, Denise Brosseau, she came to London and we met. Now, Denise is an amazing woman. If you didn't see the summit, just briefly, she's a Silicon Valley powerhouse. She's highly regarded as an entrepreneur, a supporter of entrepreneurship. She's an author. She writes on thought leadership, and she's been recognized by the White House as a champion of change. I didn't know Denise, and so it was a real opportunity to meet her in person. So we met for lunch. And within moments of sitting down, I found myself telling her some things that I've never told anybody in my life. It was a private secret, if you like, a sad secret that my husband and I had kept because we just saw that as our private journey in life. So it came as an incredible shock to tell this virtual stranger. And she said to me, Adele, you need to share this information. It's about resilience and persistence and sadness and loss and shame and moving on and all those things. And I looked at her and said, no, I don't even know why I've told you. No one knows this. My closest friends don't know. My family don't know. Why on earth would I tell you? No, I totally understand that sometimes it's easier to tell a stranger things, but I didn't even feel like it was me telling her. It was like this alien inside of me had told her. I will share with you what that was a little bit later, but I just wanted you to understand, firstly, the context. So as I do, when things happen, I try and find meaning from them. I don't believe that things happen for a reason, but that we can find meaning in things that happen. So I went away, did a lot of research, a lot of reading, looked at YouTube videos, a lot of thinking, and eventually I came to the conclusion that I had missed a really important lesson in life. Maybe this was my time to learn it. And the lesson that I discovered was the power of vulnerability, and that vulnerability is powerful. And I will talk more about that in this little video. I then felt the need to share some of my story with some other people, and I, for whatever reason, spoke to some gentlemen who are much older than me, I think, and they were moved by my story, and they also were moved to tears and shared a lot of their own personal stories, things that they'd not shared with anybody else. I shared this information with a group of businesswomen, and the response was similar. And then last week I was keynoting at a business conference, and I was asked to discuss some of the story, and I didn't know how I was going to weave it into business, but I did. And I was just completely overwhelmed by how much of an impact my story had with a good 10% of the audience, they felt moved to come and talk to me and thank me and share their own journey in business and life. So it was hard. It's been a really interesting journey. It's also been mixed with me needing to take time out to write my book, Branded You, and in some respects, a little bit of what I'm going to share with you links into a tiny bit of the book. And this video is not about that book. I will share that with you at another time, but that's something else that's happened this year, and the book is just about ready to publish. That's an advanced copy that you saw. So what I would like to do is be really honest with you, really vulnerable, and share a story, a truth about me. Many of you know my early story in business, where I had a very successful business in New Zealand, a multi-million-dollar turnover, 20 staff at its peak, and I was doing very well. I had all the trappings of success back then, and upon the birth of our daughter Gemma, who is now 14 as I record this in September 2016, but upon her birth I made the decision a few months later to close my company, and I made all my staff redundant. And the reason for that was I fell in love with this beautiful little baby who'd come into our world and changed our lives forever. And I wanted time out. And whereas once upon a time I thought that success was the money and the assets and the status and perhaps the power, what I came to realize was that the success of my business actually gave me freedom of choice. And freedom is a value that I hold very, very dear. So I went on and closed the company. I didn't have to sell it. I didn't have to find a manager. If I had sold the company, as people have asked me, I would have to have stayed with the company for 2 years before I got all of my money, and that would have defeated the purpose of what I was trying to achieve. So I didn't do that. And just to allay your concerns, amazing things happen when you make big decisions, because I worked for on a part-time basis over the following 4 years, and because I had a really good reputation, as we called it then, you might say I was personally branded now, and clients called me back from time to time, and I worked with them, and as it turns out I made as much money over 4 years as I would if I'd sold the company and had to continue working for 2. So hey, there was a silver lining in that decision. But that's not the story. What no one knows is during that further 4-year period that I was taking time out to be a mum and have some more flexibility and freedom in my life, is that David and I had in total 11 miscarriages, including losing triplets. So 2 of those miscarriages occurred before Gemma was born, and the remaining 9 happened after she was born. So it was an incredible period of struggle, of incredible highs professionally and as a family. We had a beautiful family life, including my stepson, and devastating lows, because David and I wanted to be a family of 6. David, me, Alex, who's my stepson, Gemma, and 2 more children. And for those of you who know me, you probably know that I'm a bit of a success junkie. I thrive on it. And for me, failure wasn't an option. So, we kept trying, and we didn't tell anybody. We didn't share it with anybody. I think partly because after the first miscarriage, I shared that with a few people, and while people mean well, they often don't know what to say, and often it's not very helpful. And I just decided then that it was better to say nothing, never expecting to go through such a journey. But I never said anything to anybody. We just dealt with it ourselves, and with my counsellor, actually. I had someone helping me through that. And then we came to the UK, and for another 10 years we continued to try and make babies, because again, failure wasn't an option, and there was always that maybe next month, maybe next month, maybe next month. That's a lot of next months. Over 10 years, that's 120 months of maybe next month. And in that time, while I achieved things in being in the UK, I wasn't working anywhere near full capacity or my potential, because I was so focused on wanting to be a mum of another 2 children. And so I was letting myself down, and I didn't appreciate that initially. But then eventually I started coming out of that phase of babies. I had to let it go, and some of that was age related. I was coming up to a fairly significant age number, and I just started thinking about my career again, because what I had realized was this young graduate that I once was, and had so many achievements as a young businesswoman, I was missing that. And so I resigned a whole lot of things I was doing at the time and thought, right, let's get back into it and start refocusing, and did. And I wrote my first book not long after that, which is that one there, Big Profits. And as I say, the second in the series has started under the brand Small Business, Huge Success. So things, have been going along quite nicely. And what Denise challenged me to do earlier this year was to start talking about this publicly. And, I just said no, absolutely not, didn't need to. But in testing the waters, what I came to realize is just how impactful my story was to other people. Now, my story happens to be losing 11 babies, including the triplets, but we all have hardship. We all have challenges in life, whether it be a business failure, a financial failure, someone we've lost, and that's had a major impact on us, a relationship failure, health failures. Things go wrong, and it really can affect us in ways that are obvious and then ways that are hidden and deep, and it stops our joy in life. If we're being really honest, we stop living in the present and seeing the beauty of the life that we have and that we can have. And I started realizing that, and so I came out of this fog and just carried on. So to now decide that actually it is part of my journey to share the story and perhaps be an inspiration for people around hard and sad stuff happening. I'm hoping in some small way that me telling you the story right now has some resonance with you. Maybe there's some things that have happened that have been really difficult, really challenging, really traumatic in your life or your business, and that it's time to move on from it and live in the present and focus on the future. Maybe confront those challenges, confront the issues, and let them go, because just because those things happened yesterday, that doesn't have to be the focus of today or dictate your tomorrow. There is so much more beauty in life, and if I can support you to see that in any way, then I would be thrilled to do so. And it's been amazing. I haven't been sharing this story very long, and there is an epilogue to it as well, which I will share with you too. But the new things that have happened for me, so I felt incredibly vulnerable. I felt sick last week when I was on the stage telling people in quite a big audience for the very first time of my baby journey. If I could have, I would have run off the stage. But I stood there because what I also know is that in getting used to telling the story and just moving on from it, I feel incredibly brave. And when I know that it's resonating with people, it's a very beautiful feeling to know that my experiences have had an impact on someone and perhaps contributed to their own healing or being able to put their situation into perspective. So I am feeling incredibly brave, which is another reason why I'm sharing this with you now. But other things have started to happen. I made contact with a charity that is raising a lot of money for research into miscarriage and stillbirth and babies that are born prematurely. And because I want to help to see if we can reduce the incidence of these situations. And they've asked me if I would consider writing a book on my journey, and it's not something I ever saw coming, but I'm thinking about that. And my purpose is business. It's to inspire people to be more successful in business as they define it. So that will always be the focus. But if I can contribute in these other ways as well, then I'm looking at that. So, and then speaking about it, I'm getting all these other new speaking engagements. And today it's the 22nd of September. This morning I participated in an online summit, which you'll hear about in a few weeks. And that was the first time I shared the story in that forum, and I encourage you to watch it. It's about success. And again, I was one of many speakers, but I think just talking about it in that situation with the interviewee, Liz, it was very impactful for her and hopefully her community. So, think about your own situation. Think about the stories that you're carrying, the history that you've got. While it could be hard, it could also be gold. It could be such an opportunity to help someone and just relieve that tension in your own life and give you a fresh perspective. And you can possibly see behind me, it says alive, passionate and extraordinary. Well, that's my motto, but I certainly feel really alive, passionate and extraordinary right now, and just letting all the energy go around it. And I thought I had, but now that I'm talking about it, I well and truly have. But in letting all that energy go, I'm so committed to being focused on learning and growing and giving and experiencing and achieving. So I'm just more and more focused on my purpose around learning as much as I can and giving it with the opportunity I have to contribute to people's lives, to experience life in all its beauty, and to achieve all my goals. And my goals have become really, really clear. In fact, I started thinking about the goals I had as a young professional woman, and so I've restated some of the professional ones, but there are some personal ones that I hadn't achieved. So I'm about to start training to do a white collar boxing match at the end of this year. So I'll perhaps share that journey with you. And then next year I've got an even bigger goal, which is going to be a lot more challenging for me, but I've always wanted to compete in a natural bodybuilding competition for women. So you might laugh and think, oh my goodness, what a joke. Yeah, it is, but it's something that I've always wanted to do, haven't done it. So I'm reconnecting with that. So I'll let you know how that one goes. And then of course I've got all my business stuff. So that's what I wanted to share with you. There is a little epilogue to my story. Again, I've not shared this with anybody until the last little while, and I think it's really beautiful, and I hope in some small way it resonates with you. There's no message in it as such, just something I'd like you to know because I am talking about it. But some of you will know, for those of you who've been in my community, you will know that my mother passed away a couple of years ago, almost 2 years ago. And we got word on the 1st of October 2014 that she was not expected to live very long, weeks or months at most. So I got to New Zealand as quickly as I could, and she was already in a coma by the time I got there, and that didn't bother me because I'd been speaking with her excuse me, a lot before she went into a coma. And if you've been in a situation where you've been with someone when they're dying, then their hearing is the last thing to go. And I knew that from my father-in-law because he could hear us right until the moment he died, and the only way he could communicate with us, even though he was in a coma, was by wiggling his toes. So he would wiggle his toes and answer to questions, and because he was locked in his comatose body. My mother the same, and the only way she could communicate, as I discovered, was through her breathing. And she had what you call death breath, that kind of breathing. But when something resonated, her breathing went incredibly calm, and it was beautiful. So what we thought would be her last night came, and I wanted to be up all night with her. I wanted to be there when she passed over, and she was in my parents' home in a special hospice bed. Dad was in a little bed, fitfully sleeping. He had taken his hearing aids out, so he couldn't hear anything, and I just sat there holding Mum's hand all night and talking to her, inviting her to let go and go and be with her mother. And my mother was very religious, and she always has been. God and the Bible had always been very important to her, and she was an amazing grandmother, and she was really struggling, and I knew this because she knew her time had come, but she wanted to be there for her grandchildren, and yet she wanted to be with her mum and God. And so it was a real struggle for her, and she was fighting it even in her last moments. And she had told a friend of hers that her mum was circling in the last days and before she went into a coma. So there was a lot going on. It was very, very emotional for everybody. So I sat there through the night on her last night and invited her to let go, told her we all loved her, let her know that everybody in the family would be fine, as you can imagine you would do. She wasn't ready to go at that point, and we had the radio on and some music would come on, and Mum loved Karen Carpenter, and Karen Carpenter piece of music came on, and I said, Mum, hey, wouldn't it be lovely if you passed over to Granny at this time, and I could tell everybody that you passed during this song, and that would be lovely. It would be a really nice memory for everyone. And so her breathing calmed, and I thought, oh goodness, she's going, and then she came back. And that happened several times with songs throughout the night. And it was as if she was waiting for something, and I didn't know what that was, and I thought, but I've said everything, what else is there to say? And then I realised, and I was still holding her hand as I had all night, and I just looked at her and leant down really close and said, Mum, there's something you don't know. David and I, we conceived 12 babies, and unfortunately 11 of them are in heaven. They weren't able to be with us, and they need a grandmother. They need someone to love them, and you're an amazing grandmother. I would really, really like you to go and be a grandmother to them, because I can't wrap my arms around them. I'm here on this earth for a long time to come. Will you please go and be a grandmother to these beautiful little babies of ours that didn't couldn't be with us. And as you might expect, her breathing went incredibly, incredibly calm. And it was the last thing I ever said to her. And she passed away not so very long afterwards. And I just tell you that because it's a lovely story. But also at her funeral, I told one of her closest friends, I only told one person that piece at that time, and she said, "Oh, you gave your mum a job, the gift of a job." And I thought, yeah, I did. And I came back to London and I was full of energy and felt really good about that. And then about 6 months later, so into 2015, I looked back and thought, gosh, I've got all this extra energy, and life was going quite well. And I thought, what's been different? What's happened? And I connected it back to me giving our babies to mum, because what I hadn't appreciated until that moment is that I'd fully let them go. I just let all the energy go about them. I hadn't even been thinking about them. Life had just moved on. And so whereas I gave mum a lovely gift, she actually gave me an ultimate gift. That she took that burden away from me, that sadness. She gave me freedom. And as I said earlier, this freedom is such a value for me. And I'll be forever grateful. And that's just a final in-life connection that we will always have, that I was there for her passing, and I gave her that gift, and she gave me what I consider to be a greater gift, so I'll be forever thankful to her. So that's some of what's been going on, and that was the second part of what I shared with Denise, that she said you need to start talking about, and it's taken me a while to get here to say, yeah, okay, I can share this. So now I'm using it to be inspiring, I hope, to people, to give people hope, to help people move past their own struggles. So that's it really. If there's anything that I've said today that resonates with you, or you'd like to comment on, you're very welcome to just send me an email or reply to this one. If you're receiving this on email, or if you're seeing this on YouTube, you can send me an email to success@adellemclay.com. I'd love to hear if this situation resonated with you, or even if it doesn't, tell me. I'd be interested to hear. And if I can support you in any way, if you need someone to talk to, you want some coaching to help you through some stuff, I'm finding that people are asking me to coach them now that I've started sharing this, which I guess maybe is an unexpected bonus for me, given that I am a coach. So thank you. If you're still watching this now, thank you for listening. Thank you for letting me be open and vulnerable and brave, sharing my story. And we're back into it now. You will be getting the ongoing communications from me. It's changing. I'm going to do a lot more on video. There'll be some written, and I'm participating in summits, and you'll hear about my new book soon, and then podcasting will happen. I've just got all this new energy and new things happening that I want to share with you, and it's all to support you to be more successful in your business. And that's as you define it, however you want to be successful and define success in your world. I would love to be on that journey supporting you to achieve that. So thank you, and I'll see you next time. Bye.